Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to get into something that can be a little bit intimidating, especially for you smaller companies out there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Um, but it doesn't have to be. And that's why we're here. We're talking about the CMC Quality Module 3 in QOS, for your NDA.
That's right. These documents are they're super important. Think of them as your carefully crafted message to the FDA. They need to feel good about your drug, and these documents are how you do it.
I like to think of it as like presenting a really detailed blueprint.
Yeah,
You're showing them exactly how you built this amazing thing.
exactly. And not just that it works, right? You're showing them that it's safe,
Right.
that it's high quality consistently. That's what the FDA is looking for. And frankly, if you do this well, it can actually speed up the whole approval process.
For sure. Makes their job easier. Who doesn't like that?
Exactly.
So let's get into it. Can we maybe break down what exactly these documents are? Like, what does CMC even stand for?
Yeah, so CMC stands for Chemistry, Manufacturing, and Controls. So it's all the science, right? Module 3 is where you get into the details, like what's your drug actually made of? How do you put it together? How do you test it? How do you make sure the quality is always top-notch?
Okay, so, it's really the deep dive into the science behind it all.
It is, it is.
So what about the, the QOS?
Yes. The Quality Overall Summary. Think of that as your kind of like your executive summary, your highlight reel. It takes all that detail from Module 3 and picks out the most important bits, the key takeaways. Makes it easier for the FDA to navigate.
So, if Module 3 is the whole, instruction manual, the QOS is, the quick start guide.
Exactly. You got it. And remember, this is all about regulatory compliance, right? Especially for those smaller companies just starting out.
Right.
A really well-structured submission. It shows commitment. It builds trust with the FDA. And that can make the whole process so much smoother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into Module 3 a bit. What are the main sections that people need to know about?
All right, so first off, you got to have a good introduction. Think of it as your elevator pitch to the FDA. You're giving them the overview of your drug, what it does, and a little bit about how you make it.
Got it. Grab their attention right from the start.
Exactly. Then you move into the drug substance and product descriptions. This is where you get really specific. You're talking about your active ingredient, the final formulation, like is it a tablet, a capsule, an injection, all that good stuff.
Really painting a picture.
You got it. And then, this is a big one, the manufacturing process description. This needs to be super detailed.
Okay.
Imagine like a step-by-step map of your whole manufacturing process. From raw materials all the way to the finished product, even information about your suppliers and all your quality control measures.
So complete transparency.
Exactly. You're showing the FDA you've got a good system in place, nothing to hide, builds trust, shows confidence. I actually reviewed a submission once where this small biotech company, they even included photos of their facility and team,
Wow.
just to show how serious they were about quality. It was really impressive.
That's a great idea. Show, don't tell, right?
Exactly. So after the manufacturing process comes quality control. All your procedures for making sure your drug stays high quality throughout its whole life cycle, from testing raw materials all the way to monitoring stability during shipping and storage.
So you're basically saying, look, FDA, we're on top of this every step of the way.
Yes, exactly. You're demonstrating that robust system for quality. Now, this next one is all about the proof. Validation and stability data. This is your scientific evidence. It's where you show the FDA that your drug is safe, effective, and that the quality is consistent over time. This includes data from your stability studies, showing how your drug holds up under different conditions, and data from validation studies, proving that your manufacturing and testing processes are reliable.
So basically showing your work.
Yes, it all has to be verifiable, reproducible, properly cited, just like good science should be.
Solid data integrity.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And finally, we have risk assessment. This is where you show the FDA that you've thought about everything.
Oh, this is important.
All the potential risks involved with your drug and the manufacturing process. You've got to think about every possible scenario, every what if, and show that you've got plans in place to handle them.
Being proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. A good risk assessment shows the FDA that you're committed to safety. Remember a few years back when that company had to recall a batch of their drug because of impurities? That could have been avoided if they had a more thorough risk assessment.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
It highlights how crucial this is.
Absolutely. So that's the core of Module 3. Seems like a lot to handle.
It is. But a well-prepared Module 3. It's your key to success. It shows the FDA that you understand your drug and that you're ready for prime time.
Okay, so that's Module 3. Now we need to talk about best practices for putting together a winning submission.
Let's get into that.
Yeah.
This is where things get really interesting. All right, so you're ready to put together a submission that'll make the FDA go, wow, these folks know their stuff. Where do we even begin?
Yeah, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
What are the best practices? Like, what are the pro tips here?
Okay, so first things first, you got to know the rules of the game. You've got to be familiar with the FDA guidelines and all those relevant ICH documents.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Q8, Q9, Q10, all those.
Exactly. Think of them as your blueprints, your roadmap to a successful submission.
Got it. Okay. So step 1, guidelines, check. What's next?
All right, next you got to assemble your A-team. Module 3 and QOS. This isn't a solo mission. You need people from formulation, analytics, manufacturing, regulatory affairs, everyone working together, bringing their expertise to the table.
Yeah, like the Avengers of drug development, right?
Uh-huh, exactly. And just like the Avengers, teamwork makes the dream work. And that means embracing the power of the draft and review cycle. Multiple rounds of internal review are super important. You know, a fresh set of eyes can catch things that the original author might miss.
Yeah, like a typo or a missing data point or something?
Exactly. Think of it like a quality control checkpoint for your documents.
Okay, makes sense. Now, what about bringing in, like, outside help? Is that ever a good idea?
Absolutely. Consider bringing in regulatory consultants, especially for like an FDA-style mock review.
Oh, interesting.
Think of it as a dress rehearsal before the big opening night. They can give you an objective assessment, point out any potential red flags.
So like having a coach in your corner, someone who's been there, done that.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the common pitfalls. Even with the best intentions, there are some things that can trip you up.
Yeah, let's hear it. What should people watch out for?
Okay, one of the biggest mistakes I see is incomplete data. Imagine you're serving a 5-course meal, but a couple of the dishes are missing. Doesn't really work, right?
Not ideal.
No. The FDA needs the complete picture. Missing information. That's a red flag. It can lead to delays, all sorts of headaches.
So double check those data sets, folks. Make sure everything's there. What else?
All right, another big one is a lack of coherence and flow. You're telling a story with your data, and you want the FDA reviewers to be captivated, not confused.
Right, it's got to be a good read.
They shouldn't have to struggle to follow your logic or jump back and forth between sections.
Okay, so keep it clear, concise, easy to follow.
Exactly. Now, what about risk assessment? Any common traps there?
Oh, I bet there are. That seems like a tricky one.
It can be. One common mistake is an inadequate risk assessment. The FDA wants to see that you've really thought about all the potential risks associated with your drug, and not just the obvious ones.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you've meticulously assessed the risk of contamination during manufacturing, right? But what about temperature fluctuations during storage or shipping?
Ah, I see. Overlooking the less obvious stuff.
It's about thinking broadly and considering all the factors.
So a holistic approach to risk assessment?
Exactly. And finally, and I know we've touched on this before, but it bears repeating, not adhering to the guidelines.
Yeah, got to follow the rules.
They're there for a reason. They provide a clear framework for what the FDA expects. Any deviations, you've got to be able to justify them.
Don't go rogue unless you have a really, really good reason.
Precisely. Okay, so we've talked about Module 3, but what about the QOS? We haven't really dug into that yet.
Yeah, let's dedicate some time to that. It's an important piece of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
It is. The QOS is more than just a summary. It's your opportunity to have a direct conversation with the FDA reviewers.
Oh, interesting. So like a chance to really get your point across.
Exactly. You can address any potential concerns up front, build confidence in your submission. Think of it as like adding a personal touch.
Showing them you understand the regulations and you're taking a proactive approach.
Absolutely. For example, let's say you had to deviate from a guideline a little bit, right? Because of something unique about your manufacturing process.
Okay, yeah.
The QOS is where you explain that. You give them the rationale behind your decision. Transparency builds trust, right?
Right. So it's all about communication, making sure the FDA sees the value in your product and all the hard work you've put into ensuring its quality.
That's it. You've got it. It's about building that relationship with the FDA based on transparency and mutual understanding.
Yeah.
It's about going above and beyond just meeting the requirements. It's about striving for excellence in everything you do.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. Module 3, best practices, pitfalls to avoid, and the strategic importance of the QOS. It's a lot to take in, but hopefully everyone's feeling a little bit more confident about tackling this whole process.
I hope so. And remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
Don't be afraid to ask for help. There are so many resources out there. Regulatory consultants, industry experts. You're not alone in this journey.
That's a great reminder. You've got this. You're shaping the future of healthcare, one submission at a time. And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the world of Module 3 and QOS for NDAs. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we're wrapping up our deep dive into Module 3 and the QOS. And, it's been a lot of information, but I think the biggest takeaway for me is that it's totally doable. It might seem overwhelming, especially for our smaller companies out there.
Oh, for sure.
If you plan it out, you execute it carefully, you work as a team, you can absolutely...
Oh, absolutely. And you can create documents that not only meet, but really exceed the FDA's expectations. You can really wow them.
Right. It's kind of like climbing a mountain. It looks really intimidating from the bottom, but...
I like that analogy.
If you've got the right gear and a good guide and you're determined, you can get to the top. You can reach that summit.
Exactly. And, at the end of the day, you're not just putting together documents, right? You're actually shaping the future of healthcare. All those years of research and development, they culminate in this moment.
Right. You're bringing life-changing therapies to people who need them.
That's what it's all about. And, one last thing I want to emphasize is the importance of continuous improvement.
Oh, yeah.
These documents, they're not static, right? They should evolve as you learn and gain more experience. Don't be afraid to go back, refine them, make them even better over time.
Yeah, they're like living documents, constantly growing. So to all our listeners out there, everyone on this journey, you got this.
You got this.
You're shaping the future of healthcare one submission at a time. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.